right, we're going to try a autumn aspen scene right here. Um, let's try to do this one as a quick scene. Is that possible with the one I want to do? I don't know. All right, I'm going to work like we used to in a beginning oil painting class, okay? In that, I'm just going to get kind of a base tint down. This is a little bit too dark probably, but let's just go with it here. This is some walnut stain distress ink. That's a little bit too dark. Let me go with a lighter version. Let's go with antique linen, okay? So you don't have to get too, I don't know, fussy about our pieces, okay? I mean, that's not what I wanted at all, but I don't know, just change up then, just switch up, go for a little bit of a different look. I have a real general type of notion in mind, okay? Um, and we'll just see what happens here, okay? All right. Well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have filled in that whole thing like that, but let's just go for it here. So I'm creating this gradation going from darker to lighter up there, okay? It's kind of like we're doing this thing in this piece right here, and that's this kind of uh, I don't know if it's a thought process, but it's this kind of notion of going from um, thin to thick. We're doing it in crafting here. We're not doing an oil painting here. We're doing like impasto types of additions of things. But we do have kind of thicker applications that we can use in our paint pens. This pad is a little bit whipped here. Let me try some. I'm trying to get some of my ink pads here without a gigantic stack of them toppling over. Oh my gosh, I need more space. Okay, a couple of my pads are really whipped. I've dipped into it whenever I have like my son or something stamp out. They usually take pads and they squished it into my pads, and they're kind of indented on 25-year-old pads. Okay, now that is ochre. I mean, brilliant yellow. The other one I was going to use was ochre. But I'm going for kind of a multi-toned impression here. This is orange, okay? I don't want an orange aspen tree, but this is going to provide me with a little bit of or a lot of a foundation, a varied foundation with warm tones, yellow and yellow, orange, orange yellow, whatever. Okay, but a lot of kind of my treatment of this tree or trees is going to be more with the pens, okay, the paint markers. So this, I mean, it is kind of important, to some extent, of what you stamp it in, colors, but not that important, okay? I know it seems kind of strange. Hey, it's not important, which is, because these are opaque, and I'm going to be putting a lot of that on there. I'm going to try to make this kind of a faster scene, though, so, it won't take forever, but not super important, okay? In terms of the detailed areas, okay? Okay, so it's just, what I mean by that is we want this to be more of like a general foundation by which we're going to apply other types of media, okay? All right, so that is that. I'm going to put my fences in here too, I think. So one's going to be coming in from this side and the other one coming in from this side. So let me do another impression over here of this one, okay? It should come out lighter. It almost came out darker over here, so I got a couple of impressions out of it. Oh, okay, but that's fine. I thought a lighter impression would look farther back in distance, and it doesn't really, but I guess we don't need it to. Okay, so anyways, so you see my gradations here? You know, I mean, what went on in the back of these trees? I mean, if I was working in black or something like that and set super black, that would make a difference. But it's, you know, antique linen is such a light color. It just, you know, it's kind of interesting. That's antique linen back there. But now that I've stamped something darker next to it, it almost looks white in there, doesn't it? So everything's kind of, you know, by contrast. Perception is by contrast. Okay, now let's see. My fences. Which ones to use? Let's see here. I can go for a bigger one. I think this bigger one right here, huh? And maybe a smaller one in the distance, like that one. Would this be a beautiful walk to go through some aspen trees like that? Should I stamp out this fence in black, or should I do it in dark brown? Let's do it in... I think in black. Let's go bold. I might end up coloring it a little bit in brown, but yeah, let's just go with black for the impressions here. I'll go not super high up, but like that. See, it's kind of wrapping in there, and we have our trees right there. Then we'll have another one right here. I'll go with the larger one, so it looks like it's closer to us. And if I went with a smaller one like that, I think it would be too symmetrical like that, unless you bring it over a little bit. I was talking to someone about the rule of thirds in their pieces. They did a really fantastic saying, but they asked me for a critique if I wanted to, and I just said, hey, you know, you have all the different components in there, but everything kind of went right smack dab, right to the exact center in terms of the visuals, and there wasn't something there like like an object or a person or a deer or something like that. So I just said, what you do is you just bring an element down a little bit, their moon in the background, and it would turn it more from vertical to the rule of thirds. I won't go into what that is if you don't know the rule of thirds is right now, but check it out. It's a pretty good compositional, I don't know, whatever kind of concept or strategy, maybe. That's a better term for it. Okay. Like so. See how that's a little bit larger and it's lower. So if you're working with a larger element, then put it lower, okay? Because lower on the horizon means closer to you. In terms of Western perspective, in, you know, whatever landscapes. All right, so anyways, those are giving me a really, 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 I don't know if it's the strongest visual lead-in I've ever had, but if it isn't, it's right up there. Okay. This is my tiny rock stamp. Oh. I used walnut stain on here. Let's use that too. Okay, so I'll use the walnut stain, some brown, and some black in here, okay? Alright, so here's the walnut stain. Walnut stain is not a very dark color at all. Okay, so I'm going darker versions of it closer, okay? And then as I move up, it gets lighter and lighter, okay? You know, with more impressions that you stamp of it. Go for repeat impressions, and see, from a textural standpoint, you have that. Okay, now from a distance standpoint, what you can do is you can go with a darker color and use those darker ones closer to us, like that. I mean, it's not, you know, a formula, like, oh my god, I stamped that darker, you know, brown up there, you know, farther up than my lighter brown. No, it's not a mistake. You're just, you know, that's just kind of a general kind of structure that you can think about, you know, in terms of your value schemes, you know. Things lighter up. If they're more distant, you know, they would typically be lighter in value, you know, because sediment in the air and stuff like that, and, you know, the way light works, and bouncing off something in the distance and coming back to your eye, etc. Okay, so this is the black, kind of adding at the base of my fences too, and it kind of acts like, you know, shading in some way. All right. Now, this area in the background, I think it could use some texture. So let's build some texture. Let's go with the walnut stain and the sedge filler. Okay. I have no idea what color I used on the sedge filler last time. I'm going to wipe off the edge slightly, just like I do with some sky figures, okay? And then we'll stamp that back there. I guess I didn't need to wipe it off. It's this walnut stain is really quite light in value. You don't need to mask. People say I make things look easy. Well, I make it look easy because it is easy. You know, I overlap things. We didn't mask anything off at all. I just stamped it right over the top of my trees, stamp it right over the top of my fence, you know, because this is a lighter color and that's a lighter texture, so you can do it right over solids, especially if the solids are darker, okay? Okay. So that is that. By the way, this is glossy cardstock that I'm working on. I don't know, it might be my favorite color or surface to use, just in terms of the way the vibrance, you know, you get the vibrancy of inks and whatnot using that. Okay, now, one of the things that I didn't used to do was heat set this, but that aspen is really, really juicy with the use of all that pen work on there. You know, it really builds up a lot of ink on the stamp, and then when you stamp it on glossy, you know. You might get with some inks is when you dry them out, they're going to look more dull than what they look like when they were wet, and I think that was the case here. But you spray seal these, and it kind of brings back a lot of the vibrancy of a freshly applied wet ink. All right, so let's make some assessments here. Okay, now underneath these trees, I am going to add some ink to add some shadows in those areas, okay? So let's just go back to the walnut stain again, okay? It's a fairly dark ink. It's not super dark. All right. I'll go like something like that. Make a kind of a nice, you know, whatever, wad, okay? And you're just going to lightly apply that, okay? Now we've heat set that, but if you get some smearing of imagery, then, you know, heat set it a little bit more, okay? So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go underneath my trees a little bit, okay? Now I am going to introduce some lighter touches in there with like a white tree trunks and stuff with the white pen, so I am darkening those trunks right now. They were just stamped in yellow, so they're not going to stand up against all this toning in very well, but that's okay because we're going to be using other types of media and applications on that area. Okay, now I like to go with a darker left and right corner when I can. Like that. See, it's kind of giving a little bit of foundation. It's bottom heavier now, like that. Doesn't it give it kind of some visual weight? And then underneath my trees, I'm just giving this area in the background a little bit more opacity, I guess. The trees are shimmery and yellow and whatnot, but they're still casting a shadow in there, okay? Alright, and at the base of my fence, I like to have that fence casting a bit of a shadow, so I just make it a little bit darker down there like that. Okay? Alright, now, speaking of distress inks, I have a good green, kind of an aged green that we can use in the peeled paint. I don't want it super green in here, it's not spring or something like that. It's supposed to be fall. But I do want, I think, a little tinge of some green, I think. And in the case of distress inks, it's a little bit of a kind of a earthy green. Okay, that's too much right there, so I'm wiping it off. This is one of the things that I do that's not done a lot in various forms of stamping. People don't use like lighter versions, drier versions of their inks. Okay, but I'd really recommend it because you can get a lot more mileage out of your inks, and plus using a lighter version of it. You can take a given color like that and turn it into 10 different colors just from the, how much you use of it in your applications, okay? Which doesn't mean you can't buy all the pads you want. Go and still buy all the pads you want, but really kind of expand your range of them. Okay, so anyways, that is some green in the background like that. I have some plans for this area in here. I might stamp something in that area, later on. But, okay, let's go in and let's add in some additional, I don't know, hopefully some exciting touches in here with some paint pen work, okay? Now, I like a real kind of shimmery looking surface in here. Well, maybe let's do this first. I see these aspens as having kind of a white trunk to them, so I'm going to go in here like this and add in some bark, trunk, work in here. Now, I'm working upside down because it's just easier for me to do that. It's easier for me to go like that, than it is for me to go like that. I don't know, I guess that's not too hard either. Okay. So you just kind of branch out here and there, okay, like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be on, I would say, okay? But you see how that works right there? It kind of gives it a lot more structure though, doesn't it? It'd be good if we had kind of a darker side too, to build on it, but let's try some yellow now, okay? Now this is a 3mm thick pen, so it's pretty thick, but you can use your smaller ones too if you have like a 0.7, millimeter pens. I think, I mean, these trees look okay as is too, but I just think this will give it a little bit more of a shimmer to it by having these little leaves kind of glistening in the sunshine here. So it's kind of making those trees, isn't it making that tree a little bit more dimensional? I love hiking and walking underneath aspen trees and in the their fall color. It just it feels like walking under a in a like a living stained glass painting is the thing that I tend to think about. Haven't done that a lot in the Sierras and in Colorado, Rocky Mountain National Park. And I'm not always in the, you have to get kind of lucky, I'm not sure, what the season is for aspens. I think it's too short-lived, but like hiking in this time of year is one of my favorite times of the year to hike. I haven't done that too much in the last decade, as a matter of fact, but back when. Okay, so adding that in. It's kind of coming alive, hasn't it? I'm kind of clustering it too, here and there. Kind of really kind of group it in some areas like this, I mean, there's no set formula. I mean, wherever I'm putting it, especially because I've already made it, varied, it makes this very easy because I can pretty much put it just about anywhere. These touches like this. And it just kind of blends in. It blends in, but it sticks out just enough. Okay. So you can see I've gone over, a lot of my white trunks too, or branches. Just kind of break it up a little bit. These just long lines that I put in there. That's why I said it, you don't have to be right on because, if you do this, you're going to be going over it anyway. And kind of breaking up those lines. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put some of these down on the grass meadow. I'm going to put some of this on my road too, because leaves fall. So it kind of looks like this, or it looks like this, not kind of. Okay. So see what the yellow did? Isn't that fun? I mean, if we're going for something real shimmery, that's a lot of dots. I don't think it takes that long, though. What are we on here? We're on the 24-minute mark right here. I mean, that's a lot of, that's a pretty big kind of visual statement that you make by doing that. I mean, you give this card to someone, and they're, they like fall foliage. This is a little bit of a different color. It's a little bit more of a peach, so a little bit of variation right here with this. Okay, and we have white. Shake up your pens really good before you use them to get that nice opacity with them. Okay, the white, in theory, should stand out a little bit more, but you can heat set this, but if you don't heat set it, this white will be applied over the top of other wet paint that's still on there. And it kind of merges with it, which isn't bad. It kind of gives you the intermediate version of that those two colors, white and whatever yellow, or that kind of pale yellow, merged together. So sometimes, from an incorporation standpoint, it harmonizes really well like that. But if you want, kind of a brighter, lighter white to be standing out, then heat set your paint and then go over it with the white so that it just stays pure white. Okay. All right. Now that kind of busyness up there, you kind of have to bring that down into here just so that it's not so isolated a texture, okay? So I'm just bringing a little bit of that white down here. You can bring it into your grassy area too. All right. Now, one of the things that I always like doing in my pieces is when I was doing these autumn pieces, a lot of times I'll use this leafless limb stamp. I don't know, it just provides a little bit of a sharp contrast against such a glowing, colorful background. That's why I think I included this one in my autumn set, because it just goes really well with it, the autumn bank nature set. Okay, let's see. I'm using a Brilliance ink, as it should stamp over the paint just fine. Okay. All right, just going for it here. I'm masking off just so it goes into the grass a little bit. Okay. And I think another one over here just to kind of balance it out just a touch. I'll have it kind of going off the edge of the page and coming into it, so you won't be able to see it too much. See that right there? See that? It just provides a nice little contrast right there. It's crisp and whatnot. This is a little bush that would go pretty well in here too, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of white in here. Okay, I'm going to put some of this on my fence right here, top of my fence. Reflecting some of that light. And the top of the fence in the design itself is light, okay? So I'm just reiterating that. Okay. See, so illuminating this fence here, what we've done is we've kind of incorporated it into the scene. See these little white areas in here, like that? You've put it now on the fence, and see those little white dots in there? It's kind of lighting in there, isn't it? So it kind of comes out like that. So I don't think when people look at this, they're saying, oh my gosh, look at those, those three dots right there. But just from an overall visual harmony, it really pulls you into it like that. I don't know if it's subconscious or type of thing, because someone will see all that. Whether they'll think about it and have it register, I don't know. All right. Let me try something here too. Let me try this black colored pencil. I don't know if this will show up on glossy card stuff. Someone was asking me, how do you get, any coated paper, colored pencils to work. And I said, hey, you can even get a little bit of, this pencil to work on, glossy cardstock. And let me show you right here. See, this is glossy cardstock like this. Not recommended for colored pencils, but see that right there? I can get, a light application of that colored pencil on there. Oops. So if I'm just kind of creating some shadows down here like this, right at the base of my fences, like that, see, it really anchors the fence down like that. And this is over the top of all those inks too, so, you know what I mean? As long as your colored pencil isn't super hard, if it has a reasonably soft wax to it, it'll go right in there. And, you can come up and, some of your trees too if you want to. Maybe that didn't look good. I didn't have enough white in there. Or black, there's just not enough black. Let me go back in there. I'll kind of fix that tree trunk there a little bit. Smudgy. Okay. That looks okay. See, I'm just kind of scumbling a little bit of white in here, like that, under my trees. Okay, now let me see if I have something small enough to go right back in here. It looks like a pretty good focal point for something in the distance. I don't know, I might just leave it like that too, I'm not sure. Okay, I was thinking about something like this little deer, or even this little lady rider in there. But I don't know, I'm going to leave that open like that. I think it just looks good as is. It's like kind of the mystery of the, I don't know, the mystery of the, I don't know, whatever it is, the opening like that, or that area and distance back in there. But I do. But that being said, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to add a little bit more kind of lighting in here. The lighting is going to be kind of the draw or the visual kind of end point in there, rather than kind of an object like a person or something like that. If you do that, if you do like a person or something like that, or an animal, they really become, a strong visual anchor and destination point within your scene. And I usually do something like that. It's like a focal point. But I think these fences right here, I guess this is what the difference is. These fences create such a strong lead-in like that. I don't know, I don't feel I need something in the distance, or anything that really occurs to me, or something can be equally as, I don't know, whatever, compelling in the absence of, such a object or whatever. Okay, so let's go with some additional pigment ink right here. Okay, let's soften things up. I think things are looking pretty good without this. I usually do this on all of my scenes, and I don't think this one really needs it, but I think it could be interesting anyway, just to kind of lighten it up in here a little bit. Can you see that right there? I'm going to put a little bit of this over here too. I'm going to have it kind of go up into these trees here, like a little corridor of light maybe. I'll put some over here. The leafless limb over there looks pretty good, but I want it to put a little bit of light onto it like that. See that? It's softened it up a little bit, so it creates a contrast between kind of the sharp angles of it, but it's also kind of illuminated as well. So just going a little bit like that at a time. Now this fence is a little bit farther away than the other one, right? So maybe I'll put a little bit of highlighting on that as well. See that fence right there? It's kind of light. Yeah, getting a little bit lighter like that. So it's, hopefully by doing that, it's shining the light on it. Yeah, we're compelled to, I don't know if we're compelled to go into the light, but it seems very welcoming, right? And I mean, I can even see this being used as a really nice sympathy type of card too, right? Having this kind of openness and this beauty in the distance, and it's very welcoming. Okay, now I'm coming down my road a little bit too, to create a little bit of this kind of passageway of, kind of welcoming illumination, like so. All right. We'll get this formatted up into a card, I think. Might even look good on some sort of gold perimeter. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. That's way too much. I don't know, I'll figure something out. But just in terms of an overall piece, what do you think? Oops. I think it looks pretty nice like that. Relatively speaking, I don't know, it's a pretty simple composition. We have the aspens, okay, two different fences, sedge filler, and tiny rock small. I threw in the leafless limbs in there too. See, it's right there and there. See that kind of complements the white bark right there. I don't know. I thought it looked good without it too. But yeah, I don't know. There's not too many things in here, but I think that makes for a pretty, I don't know, it's a pretty strong piece for, I don't know, kind of in its simplicity. Okay, but here's the thing, the thing that made it real easy in terms of the application of like these pens right here. I mean, I can just kind of dot wherever I wanted to go. Was just taking this and going for a couple multiple colors on it. So you can color, I like coloring it with my darker one and then blending in with my lighter one so that, if I go light and then I go dark, sometimes when I stamp it out, there's too definitive a line, okay? So a lot of times I work dark and then blend in the light and then stamp it out, okay? But then it gave me a much more varied surface, and then you can just go into it with something like these right there, and then add in that extra shimmer. You didn't have to do it, but I think it just looks so much more dimensional that way. I can't see any of the white that I've added in here. I think it is, in the time that we've been, I've been doing those other things on here, that white kind of mixed with the colors underneath it. So, like I said, you can heat set it, and you can get much more white in there. But from a shimmery kind of dimensional standpoint, these pens are just really fun to use and can add so much more dimension to your pieces. Doesn't have to be the big thick ones. Could be the smaller ones, but just kind of layer them, layer your colors, and then also know that when you lay down one color, if you have other colors to come over the top of it, you're not necessarily looking at the end result. Sometimes people panic and they say, oh my god, I don't like the orange. But, you're going to be putting something like this over the top of it, so you have to see it as kind of like a process. Okay, so anyway, oh yeah, here's a little bit of green. Maybe I'll put a little bit of green down my little meadow down here. Little bits of colored light. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for tuning into the channel, and I don't know, try out some autumn colors and see if you can capture some of that shimmering light type of effect. And it's really fun to do.